Hello everyone and welcome to Fallen Angel Customs. You may have noticed a little theme forming with the videos recently, and this one's no different. Ready to see what critter this one will be? Then let's get started. Taking a ruler and pencil, I measured and cut out a 15cm square. Using some white bias tape, I sewed it down all the way around one piece and then the other, to form a pouch, making sure to leave a small opening to add stuffing, making the pouch into a cushion. Taking more bias tape, I made 4 loops, one for each corner. Taking a wooden dowel, I checked to make sure there was enough room for it to fit through the loop, doing the same for each loop. To give a quilted mattress type look, I sewed 4 lines in a grid fashion. Making a paper triangle template, I cut 4 triangles from fabric before sewing them all together to form a pyramid, snipping off the top to create an opening, as well as cut one of the triangles in half to create an opening before hemming both the top and the bottom. Taking some ribbon, I used it to hem both sides of the opening, as well as to the side seams to create tubes for the dowels to anchor to the fabric, which, in combination with the cushion, turns into this adorable little teepee. Taping a cape flip pattern I already had, I altered the bottom to have a wavy edge at the bottom instead of a straight one. I cut all the pieces out with some scrap minky, as well as the inner ears out of an accent colour, sewing the ears and the hood pieces together. Taking some white fabric paint, I used it to create an edging along the bottom of the cape. Once the white was dry, I used purple acrylic on top of it so that it matched the inner ears. Taking the hood and ears, I carefully positioned them so there was one on each side. I ended up taking an extra strip of minky and added a centre panel to the hood to give it a little more room on the doll's head before attaching the hood to the cape. It was while editing that I discovered I completely forgot to film once the hood was connected to the cape. Sorry! On to the jammies! I started by cutting out the pattern pieces in the same fabric I used for the accents in the bat ears on the cape. I started by sewing the front and back pieces together at the shoulder seams, before moving on to sewing the sleeves in place at the shoulders. With the sleeves in place, I hemmed the bottoms of them before sewing up the side seams and all the way along the sleeves. Turning the top right way out, I hemmed all the way around the edge before taking some lilac ribbon to make a tie closure. Taking a shorts pattern, I cut it out of the same fabric, sewing along the outer side seams, hemming the bottom edge, and then sewing the inner side seam, before moving on to sewing the 2 legs together along the centre seam, turning the shorts right side out and hemming the top edge. Taking a back pattern I purchased from BZ Art, I'll leave the link in the description below. I printed it on a small scale and cut the pieces out of green minky and pink floral fabric. I started by sewing the wing accents to the belly and sewing the ear pieces together. Taking the ear pieces, I folded them half before sewing them in place on the head pieces. Before sewing the dart at the bottom of the belly, as well as sewing the gusset to both halves of the head to form a whole head. Taking the tiny feet pieces, I sewed them together to make 2 little feet. Taking the teeny feet, I sandwiched them between the front and back pieces. Sewing all the way around, leaving the neck hole section open. Taking tiny little safety eyes, I place them into the head before stuffing the head and the body and sewing them together. Ready to see what it looks like? It's so tiny and small. Look at how cute. Honestly, I couldn't get over how adorable this little one was as it all came together. I lost track of how much time I spent gushing over its teeny tiny cuteness. I started by applying pastels to her cheeks, starting with a lighter pink before placing a darker tone on top to make the blushing a little more visible. Once happy with the blushing, I moved on to my pencils, starting with a light brown to sketch in her eye placement, as well as filling in white for her eyes. Moving on to her lips, filling them in with a pink shade. I didn't end up fully following the sculpted mouths. I rounded them out a little in an attempt to give a slightly yawning look to her mouth. Once her lips were finished, her eyes were bothering me, one in particular. It looked really off, and when I tried to correct it, it only made it worse. So instead, I opted for erasing the eye that was bothering me. I decided to go for a one eye closed look instead, which I was much happier with how it looked, and I'm glad I decided to change it. I used a little pink to add a little shading and depth to the closed lid. Before going in with a purple tone similar to the doll's hair to fill in her eyebrows, as well as adding some freckles across her nose and cheeks. After sealing the first layer, I started adding her iris to the open eye with a light blue, and I went back and forth building up colour and pigmentation, using darker colours to add more depth as I went. Taking some gloss, I applied it to her eye and lips. Since I wanted to reposition her arm so she could have a more sleepy, rubbing her eye look, I carefully used my heat gun to warm the plastic by her elbow. Once I had warmed it up enough, I bent her arm in the position I wanted and held it that way while the plastic cooled down again. I decided to heat up her hand too, so I could adjust it to a closed fist style to really work with the eye rubbing idea. Are you ready? I'd like you to meet Echo. This little cutie and her teepee and little bat companion were so much fun to make. I couldn't resist but to play on the saying blind as a bat while giving her life, though it was definitely strange not to add the highlights to her eye or give the usual high gloss I do. Her little bat friend was a real challenge with it being so small, but so worth it in the end. Did you enjoy Echo's journey? Which was your favourite part? Mine was definitely her little batty companion. I'm obsessed. I can see me creating an army of them in the future. Until next time.
You happy there, Haku? Yeah.